Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm looking at some Dynasty buys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go. Player number one, and this is going to be a theme of these three players today, Puka Nacua. And when a player causes frustration, they become a Dynasty buy. And Nacua is no exception. Obviously, this year he's played in 3 games. 12 catches, 152 yards on 17 targets. Split into those 3 games. The one he left early in week 1, the first game back, where he played very well, and most people didn't put him in their lineup. And then this past week, which was a disaster, when most people had him in. So they mostly got the bad 2 performances, and dynasty managers missed out on the one good one. So they're annoyed. I get it. However, Nacua had an elite rookie year. 17 games, 105 catches, 1,486 yards, 6 touchdowns. 160 targets, 6.2 catches, and 87.4 yards a game. This was not 5 years ago. This was not 4 years ago. This was last year, 2023. Players don't put up these types of numbers if they're not elite, especially not as 5th-round rookies. It doesn't happen, okay? Nacua, in the one game he actually played all of, had 7 catches for 106 yards and 9 targets and 2 carries for 5 yards. Despite playing in only 57% snap share and not looking fully healthy, he was consistently a first read option in that game. He is still elite. It has not changed. He's still just 23 years old, which is extremely young for a dynasty wide receiver. Now, how to buy Puka Nacua? Well, he's still relatively easy to buy. There were plenty of trades in the Dynasty Daddy trade database to buy Puka Nacua. There's this one. Buy Puka Nacua in a 27-second for A.J. Brown. I would much rather have Nacua over Brown in Dynasty. He's 4 years younger and, has shown a similar ceiling to Brown. So I would absolutely rather have Nacua here. Pretty easy call for me. Then this one, buy Nacua for Keon Coleman, George Kittle, Kevin Ridley. I don't hate these players, but Ridley is 29. Kittle is 31. Coleman, maybe. These are 3 lower tier assets for 1 premium asset. I would rather have the 1 premium asset here. And then the last one, buy Puka Nacua for 25 first and 25 second. I'd have Nacua here pretty comfortably. So these are some options to buy Nacua. Maybe it's something you can do in your leagues, and I would explore the market on Puka Nacua before this week occurs. Similarly to Nacua, we're looking at kind of a frustration buy with Brian Thomas. My opinion of Brian Thomas as a budding elite wide receiver has not changed. In 9 games so far, 35 catches, 595 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3.9 catches, and 66.1 yards a game. That doesn't tell the full story, though. He left week 8 with a chest/ribs injury, and it limited him in week 9. In the previous 5 games, Thomas averaged 4.8 catches and 74.4 yards a game with 3 touchdowns, which would pace for 82 catches, 1,265 yards, and 10 touchdowns over a 17-game season. Now, why do I have Brian Thomas as a dynasty buy? I mean, there's a lot of reasons. His rookie production is extremely good. He's already almost matched Jackson Smith-Njigba's yardage total from 2023. Again, a similar prospect to Brian Thomas. Both first-round picks, both good prospects, but not the elite Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors type prospect. Not on that level. Very good later first-round prospects. And Thomas has almost already matched JSN's yardage total from last year. 2.5 yards per route run. 10th among wide receivers this year. That is an elite number. Elite. As a rookie to have 2.5 yards per route run. Very good. We want to see that. 34.4 expected points added. 11th among wide receivers in 2024. So what does that mean? That means that Thomas is adding value when he is on the field compared to your average player at that position. He's also strong. There are so many metrics. I could go through the other ones. I could go through separation. I could go through route running. There's many metrics. That's not the point of the video. You can go look all that up on your own. The point is that this is an elite wide receiver, or at the very least, a budding elite wide receiver prospect. First-round picks who come in and are this successful immediately almost always hit long-term. And if they don't, it's usually because injuries derail their career, which could happen to any player and are not predictable. So, buying Brian Thomas. Apparently, Thomas is even easier to buy than Nacua was, which I love to see. This one, buy Brian Thomas for Terry McLaurin. I mean, okay. I would much rather have Brian Thomas. I don't understand this one. Terry McLaurin can't even lock down target volume. He had 2 touchdowns this week, but it wasn't on an impressive volume. I'd much rather have Brian Thomas, who is 7 years younger than McLaurin. Now, this one I think is interesting. By Brian Thomas in 25 first for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. The volume's been down, though. The volume has been down in the revamped Lions offense, more run-heavy Lions offense. I think I'd rather have Thomas and a first over Amon-Ra. It's pretty fair, though, but I would lean the Thomas side here. And then this one is just nonsensical to me. By Brian Thomas for Mike Gesicki and Cortland Sutton. I would rather have Brian Thomas there so easily. I cannot believe that this was a real trade from the Dynasty Daddy trade database, but it was there. It was there, and I find it hard to believe, but, people do crazy things. So take shots like this in your Dynasty leagues. You never know when you're going to make a league-winning move like this one. Look, I don't want to do the same recycled promo that I do on every video. I'm trying to mix it up a little bit, but I'll just say this. I think everyone who watches these videos, I extra more thank, or whatever you want to say there, thank everyone who has signed up for the Patreon. And I would love it if new patrons join. I will just say this, and then we will move on. The approach of the YouTube videos being free will continue. The approach of questions and answers and advice being for paying customers only will also continue. Those things are not changing. That is a permanent approach. It will not change. Please stop asking me. I'm not going to change that approach. That will be the approach as long as I'm doing content in this industry. It's not going to change. With that said, I appreciate everyone who signed up, and we'll jump into our next player. So speaking of frustration and annoyance, I think people are very annoyed with Caleb Williams, but he hasn't been as horrible as people are saying. In 8 games, 61.4% completion, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 6.3 yards per attempt, 208.1 yards of passing, and 26.7 rushing yards per game. That little bit of running is actually nice and helpful for his fantasy floor. To give you a comparison to some other rookie quarterbacks, he's been far better than Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff, whereas rookies, of course, those both turned out at least okay. And comparable to Tua Tagovailoa, we remember that Josh Allen was also a horrific rookie passer as well. So Williams has a low touchdown rate, extremely low, 3.4% touchdown rate. That's going to improve. It's not going to stay that low forever. He's consistently pressured. He's been pressured 42 and 63% of his dropbacks the last 2 weeks. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's not a normal amount. It would be very difficult for any quarterback to succeed under that environment of pressure. So as much as that sucks, and, it shows that the Bears offensive line needs to change, I'm not sure that we can just dismiss Williams' future prospects because of it. And look, quarterbacks sometimes take time to develop, even generational prospects. Not everyone can be Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, or now Jaden Daniels, who hit the ground running and were elite right away. There's plenty of great quarterbacks who didn't excel as rookies. I mean, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Trevor Lawrence were super high-end prospects who had horrible rookie years. All three were horrible. Absolutely horrible. So it's not over for Caleb Williams. And on that idea, so you got to differentiate something. There is a difference between, you saw the Panthers give up on Bryce Young. You saw the Colts give up on Anthony Richardson. Yes, they were highly drafted. Yes, their teams gave up on them. That's true. Teams give up on some highly drafted quarterbacks. They don't give up on generational quarterback prospects. So Eli Manning was awful for years, and the Giants obviously did not give up on him. Trevor Lawrence, really not so good for 3 years. Overall, not all that great. What did the Jaguars do? They gave him a $55 million a year contract extension. These types of generational quarterbacks do not get given up on. Trevor Lawrence, even today, still holds a third-round dynasty startup value. And you might not like Caleb Williams, but that is the reality. And you have to accept that that is the reality of Caleb Williams, even if you might not like him. So with that being said, of course, all of the deals I'm going to show you are in Superflex leagues. This first one by Caleb Williams for Devon Achane. Yes, Devon Achane is producing. No, he's not worth more in a Superflex Dynasty league than Caleb Williams. He's just not. The next one, even more egregious. Buy Caleb Williams for Bo Nix and Ricky Pearsall. I don't hate Ricky Pearsall, but he was a 24-year-old rookie in a crowded situation who unfortunately lost a lot of development time due to the shooting. I'm not exactly excited about Ricky Pearsall. And Bo Nix has been bad. It's hidden by the wins, but not good. Scoring some fantasy points, which is nice with his legs, but really, really has not actually been a good NFL quarterback yet. And then this last one, Caleb Williams and Josh Downs for 25 first and 25 second. Something's not right here. Josh Downs is worth more than a second on his own. A single 25 first for Caleb Williams. There's not going to be a player in the 2025 rookie draft in Superflex leagues who is worth more than Caleb Williams. That player will not exist. So I would easily buy Caleb Williams here. Explore the market on Caleb Williams. I think people just don't like him. They don't like him. They, are irrational about him. That's fine. Let them make that mistake. Use more level-headed approach and buy Caleb Williams in your dynasty leagues. Of course, there was a lot of big news yesterday. The NFL trade deadline was yesterday, and I'm trying to deliver more energy on this video. More energy. I'm working on that. Some people say that I've been a little too quiet on the videos lately, so we're trying to deliver more. So we're going to deliver more energy here. As usual, though, trade deadline day was mostly disappointing. People always expect too much from that day in the NFL. But this was the biggest move. Khalil Herbert, for our purposes, traded to the Bengals. The Bengals gave a 25-7 to acquire Herbert from the Bears. They barely had to pay anything. Herbert was unwanted by the Bears in a contract year. He had 8 carries, 16 yards, touchdown, 2 catches for 4 yards. So totally unused. But he'd been good in the past. Now, we know Zack Moss is on IR with a neck injury. Herbert's going to slide into that role as the backup / complement to Chase Brown. Moss had been getting run before his injury, even if he'd been bad on that run. No other Bengals running back has really had any touches this year. So Herbert is a prime handcuff to Brown. Keep that in mind. Obviously should be rostered in all dynasty leagues. Now, Jonathan Mingo traded to the Cowboys. Now, it might be the dumbest thing anyone did yesterday. As wild as that is, the dumbest thing anyone did yesterday might have been this. The Cowboys somehow gave up a 25-4 for Mingo and a 25-7. Why? It's ridiculous overpay. Mingo was a second-round pick in 2023, and he's been so bad. 12 catches, 121 yards, and 26 targets. So not even catching half of them. 1.3 catches and 13.4 yards a game. He was horrible. He did nothing. He's consistently graded as one of the worst wide receivers in the league. You can go through any metric. Separations, not good at that. Yards per route run, bad at that. Bad at everything. You can go all the metrics. He's bad at every single one. He's just a bad player. Bad. So I don't think he's worthy of an NFL roster spot. Why the Cowboys did this, I have no idea. I'm not adding Mingo in my dynasty leagues. You can add him. I'm uninterested in failure, Jonathan Mingo. Oh, failure. I haven't said that word in a while. Maybe we got to bring back a little more emotional tone to these videos. But failure Mingo doesn't interest me. Now, Mike Williams traded to the Steelers. Steelers gave a 25-5 to the Jets for Williams. Seems like a fair price. Williams was unwanted on the Jets after his big drop, and Aaron Rodgers complained and whined, as he does, about Williams. Threw him under the bus. Steelers need a second wide receiver very badly, obviously. They had no one other than George Pickens. Williams did nothing this year because of the problems with Aaron Rodgers. 12 catches, 166 yards, 21 targets, 1.3 catches, 18.4 yards game. Wasn't working out on the Jets, but actually Williams had been pretty solid before that. I'd sell Williams for any third, though. I'm not that interested in Mike Williams long-term. Now, I've got one Patreon question. We'll get into it. Are there any running back depth pieces you'll be targeting as a contender, redraft or dynasty? I hate buying running backs in season. They're always overpriced. But Brian Robinson was injured. Maybe could you get him for a second and a third? I'd consider it. In redraft, I don't know how to trade for running backs in redraft. That's not what this is the Dynasty channel. I don't even, that's hard to say. Dynasty, though, Brian Robinson, maybe not too late to go after Tyrone Tracy. A couple of seconds for Tyrone Tracy. I'd consider that. Those are a couple of options, at least in Dynasty. Now, if you liked the video, you liked the new approach to the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice and you want to see me curse, I'm not going to do it on here. It's available. I'll do it on the Patreon. Dynasty, Starts It, Redraft, and more. And every sign up helps support my independent content. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.